Welcome back to another video, folks. Ladies and gentlemen, sending out a lot of love. This is SCP Animated Tales from the Foundation. Yes, almost seemed like Tales from the Borderlands. Anyways, shout out to them. And yeah, let's just hop in where the dragons went. See, I seen this one recommended and I was like, I love dragons. Let's just, no question, I'm getting this one done. So let's go.
What is there to be said of where the dragons went?
Okay.
Just as much as any other tale, and more if you're a romantic. The answer is simple. A cardboard box, spray-painted silver. On its side, 3 words were written in black permanent marker. Here be dragons. What do we know of its history? Well, it began with a family of creatives. One
Okay, I was about to say, is it like Narnia in a box? Like,
so imaginative and passionate that they could bend our reality with their thoughts. The wonders of their imagination came spilling into the world, gracing it with whimsy and light. With this ability, they crafted a room in their home, one filled with magic. This exquisite place had no rival in all the world. Its walls were of the purest.
it is literally a D&D campaign. Nah, but in all seriousness, they made Narnia in a box.
White marble, covered in etchings of fantastic creatures.
Okay.
Its ceiling stretched so high, it appeared to have no ceiling at all, instead being blanketed by dainty clouds overhead. But this magical room was more than just visual splendor. It was also a portal. And this was the place from which the dragons emerged.
Narnia.
Their full glory was so grand that it defied description. They stood tall and strong, and their eyes were so full of wisdom that anyone caught in their gaze was paralyzed by wonder. We haven't seen the other side of this portal, but if the dragons are to be believed, it is filled with all sorts of natural wonders and fantastic creatures, from towering, enigmatic bumpkles to the conniving, gem-thieving Zargarths.
Bumpkles and Zargars?
For years, this family of creatives...
Bumpkles and Zargars? I don't know. I don't know why that's so funny. I'm gonna put on caps to see if this...
kept the room in...
No, I have to put them on and go back.
To the conniving, gem-thieving Zargarths.
Aw, damn. It's not good, but Zargarths.
For years, this family of creatives kept the room in pristine condition, not only for their sake, but for the dragons as well. They spoke often, growing to understand and love each other. Over the years, they became inseparable friends and allies.
I don't know about that green dragon. It has that kind of smirk, you know, that it's like kind of like scheming with infinite knowledge.
Their beautiful friendship is still remembered by the dragons today, or so we believe. It is unknown why the family was unable to maintain the room, but once they stopped, it began to shrink. When it was discovered, the room had become the small silver cardboard box. And it sat in a sterile, white-walled room in a facility. A room within a room. On occasion, the dragons still emerged from the box.
Roomception.
But just as the room had faded from its full glory, so too had the dragons.
Damn.
In their own reality, they still appeared as beautiful and strong as ever. But in our reality, the belief in their fantasy world had faded so much that their bodies could no longer be sustained. Instead, they appeared as paper dragons, flying about as shadows of their...
Is this supposed to be sad? Stop. Are you guys trying to put me in my feels? You show me the most disgusting things happening with the SCPs, and then you show me some sad stuff? What? No, don't do this. Don't do this to me. What is this?
Former selves.
They got the music.
Though they didn't inspire as much awe as they once had.
They should.
It was still a wonder to see hundreds of paper dragons flutter and circle the room when they emerged. They could still observe us too, just as we observed them. They sent notes for us to read, updating us how their world had changed since the family left the room.
You have found us. Thank you. It has been so long since we last saw each other, friends. The peace has been upheld. The giants and behemoths have kept their word and have not caused any trouble since you last came and gave the order. We missed your company. How has your family been? Do you still know how to work your room? You are welcome to visit anytime. It's strange to see how much your world has changed. It is even stranger to see how we now appear in this place. In fantasy, we are much bigger. Or maybe you've grown taller. Fantasy is still the same. We hope you can visit us like you used to. Though our room is as grand as ever, it appears yours has shrunken. We do not understand. The rooms were supposed to be maintained, as was our agreement. Please restore the belief.
These notes came with each appearance of the paper dragons, telling tales of how the fantasy world had fallen since the departure of the family.
This is actually just like, I have no comments. This is actually just saddening right now. I'm being put in my feelings. The poor dragons, man. The rooms were supposed to be upheld. What happened? God.
It appeared that they were very involved in the working of the fantasy world, though in their absence, the order that they created was disintegrating, like the box that connected the two worlds. The notes grew bleaker over time. The isolation of the box in the facility was detrimental, keeping it away from the imaginative energy it needed to exist.
Why?
Surrounded by cold, sterile walls and fluorescent lights, it was cut off from the rest of the world. The next note came with the appearance of only 20 dragons.
Friends, we apologize for our few numbers. We have had to remain in fantasy for quite some time. The others are growing impatient. We are trying to keep the peace, but please, for all of our happiness, repair the room quickly. We know you are trying. Your family is the most imaginative of us all.
Their faith in us was heartbreaking. They called us friends, and we called them SCPs. We had lost sight of the imagination they thrived on that sustained their magic. The next appearance of the dragons was accompanied by 3 balls of crumpled yellow paper, which shook and rolled around on the floor before laying still, appearing to die.
The giants were foolish. Your room was not ready to accept them yet. We're sorry, friends. We hope that we can still see you, but time is growing short for our happiness.
What
Okay. That's what I mean about the SCP Foundation. Or like the personnel, bruh. They be treating some of these SCPs like garbage, man. Like garbage. I'm sick of this right now. I'm sick of this. I'm tired of this. Give 049 his stick back. Let the dragons put the box outside so our imaginative energy can reach them. The only SCP they don't treat bad is 999. I'm tired of this, guys. I'm actually tired of this. She said from, I guess, the perspective of them, like, they called us friends. They have faith in us repairing the room. But, like, after the family disappeared, what would be bad, like, having the room kind of just out in the world? What happened to the family? Did I literally just get, like my mind get clouded by literally the... I don't know what is going on. Where? Never mind. You know what? Where's the family? Like, they just need imaginative power, man. Put the box outside the cold containment walls and let imagination reach them.
Fragile peace existed in their world seemed to be deteriorating.
I'm not gonna lie to you, when little like yellow balls came out and they were like, sorry, the giants were patient or whatever, and your world won't accept them, blah, blah, blah. I thought they were shooting fireballs. That's what I thought at first, that these were fireballs. Till I see them carrying them. And like, because like they're like, when they show up in the world now, they're just really tiny. I was just like, oh, they're fireballs or paper too? Damn.
With frustrated parties like the giants trying to come and speak with us directly. Their bodies, the crumpled pieces of paper, were picked up by the paper dragons and carried back into the box when they departed.
So are they dead?
Their reverence and respect was lost on us. Their visits became shorter and more tension-filled, and their numbers dwindled further. The next note was delivered by 5 dragons, who departed immediately after placing it on the sterile facility floor.
Tensions are rising. Fantasy is becoming darker. We, the serpents and the hybrids, are furiously trying to hold them back. But the giants and elves wish to strike and make an entrance. They say that your family has grown stupid and ignorant. We hope this untrue. It would sadden us all greatly to know you have forgotten.
They had been optimistic about our inaction until this point. But it seemed that they were losing a battle and could no longer afford to hold out hope. A few of us wondered what tragedies were happening on the other side. Surely the immense, shimmering beasts were holding the unfriendly forces at bay. And if they couldn't, what would come through the box then? Living paper giants? Real flesh and blood giants? The threat was assessed to be minimal, though there was nothing we could do, even if we wanted to intervene in their struggle. Soon after the last note, a single red dragon crawled from the box, its wings torn, and its body noticeably crumpled. Shortly after emerging, it collapsed on the floor and did not move again.
War. Goodbye, friends.
A couple hours later, the box flew open and a white-hot fire burst from within, rising high above the box's rim. The heat was so intense that the glass of the observation window began to melt, and the walls blistered and burned, and the ceiling charred. This blazing fire seemed to continue for hours. Then suddenly, several dozen crumpled paper balls and torn shreds were thrown out of the box. They fell to the floor, unmoving. Then all at once, the box went still. It was empty, as it always had been. Over the next few weeks, the box periodically opened with its fiery fury. More paper bodies would appear each time, though their numbers steadily decreased. We had no way of knowing when the box would close for the last time, but it did, and it remained still for months afterwards. In its silent, still state, one researcher looked inside and discovered a note.
Are you still out there, friends? We miss you dearly. Fantasy is no longer safe. Our haven, your beautiful creation, is gone. The giants are dead. The centaurs are dead. The birds have fled. We are going to bury your room. We cannot risk hurting you. This is our goodbye. Maybe one day your family can build another room. This may be a hollow hope, but we will cherish this thought.
What have I been sent, bruh? This is not one of Vati videos. Prepare to cries. Why? Why? There's more. I have a video also sent by SCP Illustrated, or well, from SCP Illustrated, about it's like, I don't know if it's Where the Dragons Went also, but I think it was called The Dragons Are Back. I don't know. I'm going to have to watch that one immediately after this. Oh, bruh. I don't know what to comment on this one, man. Oh my gosh. sometimes the SCP found, oh man, they seem so cold. They're just observing. There's nothing they can do. Not try to go in the box.
The final note from the dragons came sometime after.
Oh,
the box had returned to its original state, but with one key difference. The side now read, "Here were dragons."
Damn,
Master says that we won't see you again. We are sad.
They sent literally one of the Elder Scrolls.
So are the remaining others. We once filled each other's heads with dreams and goals. It is so sad that we cannot share them any longer. Master says we have to go. He says that he will make us a new fantasy. He says you cannot be a part of it. We are sad. We love you. We will not forget you. We are scared. Will you forget us?
Why? Is that it? Why? 8 years later. Please, some good news. Also, what did the master mean by they're gonna make a new world? Whoa, what? I don't know. Bro, I had this open behind. Beasts of the old letters and an amethyst crystal. No explanation. What the no reaction? Beasts of the old letters. That's sick how that like is titled like that. But then an amethyst crystal, what the hell? You need to give those two items to the most imaginative kids ever and rebuild the world. What? It just ended like that. So now should I watch SCP Illustrated's video? Oh my gosh. It ended like that, bruh. That pains me. I see the Volgans. I think this is the saddest metaphor to growing up I ever seen. The world is so vibrant as a child. Stories feel so real. I don't know what's... I'm just reading the comments. Actually, I'll show it while I read it. I don't know what's sadder. The dragons pleading for help, growing more desperate with each note, or the dragons referring to them as friends even though they failed to restore fantasy. I personally believe this one is about growing up. The dragons were always paper. The room was always a box. It was a child's imagination that created the world, and as the child grows up, all that is left the remnants of the games child's play. They called us friends. We called them SCPs. This story really want to throw hands with my heart. Yo, seriously, this messed me up. I like how the voice of Dr. Buck narrated, almost as if Dr. Buck is telling the story. If the box was maintained entirely by the very essence of imagination, then it would probably have taken to maintain then all it would have taken to maintain the box and most likely enlarge it would have been like 2 first graders, a lot of snacks, art supplies, a big ass, or millionaires and other people like that have created their reality. And the reason I say that is because that is what's taught at the higher levels. If you really want to know, like manifestation and stuff like that is imagination. So when it comes to people who've literally created their realities through thought, that's why I actually like this one, and like where people are saying, you know, is the young girl's pet literally SCP-682? But that's like why I like this one, because that's actually what I started to put together after it got to a certain point, whereas like it was always a box. But like what where I'm just like, the imagination part, literally everybody believes. They should have just put this box outside in the world. But see, that's the bad thing, I think. Not bad, but the bad part that has been removed because of how. That's why I don't abide by society and the beliefs. Is literally you should always awaken a kid's imagination. There are some people who even believe, which I believe it to be true when you talk about a higher divine power, to be your imagination, because everything is cause and effect. Look at my 7 laws of the universe videos if you want, but everything was created here first. I talk about this in videos. This mic, this very camera you're seeing me on, came from someone's imagination. So it really shouldn't be that growing up is about like dying to your imagination. I think your imagination should stay intact as long as you grow up. You know, my grandma used to say, it's funny how when you're born, you're childlike, and by the time you pass or you die or you grow old, you revert back into a child. You stop caring more, or like, you know, you get old though too, but like you give less fucks and shit like that, and explained how it's this weird thing, like you're really just supposed to remain childlike your entire life. Like, and it's not like childlike, you should just keep your imagination intact, because imagination is the very thing that brought almost everything here into existence. Like when the universe was birthed, there was only words, frequencies, energy, frequencies, and all that good stuff that I don't have time to get into, but I have in other videos. And I feel like even though if this was about like growing up, that's not how the world should be. Your like imagination should be preserved, and it's not. And I think this also plays on that. This is a very like alluding story to the problem with imagination not being preserved in kids. Like, yeah, like you could see it from that perspective too. It's like look at what happened. Such a beautiful and fantastical world that was built in the mind of a family, just over time dwindled and died out. Yeah, I don't know. In the beginning part with the family and the whole thing, and they were like, man, that's the only thing I wouldn't say. Like this
reality with their thoughts. The wonders of their imagination came spilling into the world, gracing it with whimsy and light.
See, that's the only reason I wouldn't say I don't think it was. You could see it as like, you could see it always. Everyone sees stuff in a different way, but that's the only reason I don't think it was all the way alluding to growing up. But in a way, yeah. But hey, that was just straight up like freaking talking about manifestation. I have a thing on manifestation. I don't want to like say something and then like leave it. It'll be in my Lunar's Lost Treasures. But if, yeah. Anyways, I will see you in the next one. I'm gonna watch I don't know if you guys want me to make a video out of the one by SCP Illustrated where the dragons went, or well, I think, let me just see what the name of his is. It's literally the same, but I don't know if like I'm gonna watch that video and it's gonna be the same context as this one. So let me know if you want me to follow it up. But this was a good video. I really enjoyed this. Alright, I'm out of here. Gosh, I'm all in my fields and stuff and got a lot of thoughts out. Jeez. I'm done. Much love in Moonlight. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.